Hey folks, today is Wednesday, March 27th, 7:17 p.m. My name is James, and let's take a look at the markets. So the futures are red right now. They just opened up about an hour and a half ago. So I'm hoping again, like I hoped yesterday for today, that we would get green futures, but we didn't. And if you notice, there's a lot of sort of end of day buying showing up, which I think is really good actually. It's constructive because if you look at the S&P 500 here, I've got a bull flag here. It's right at the line, like it's cutting into the line. That might not be bad though, but to me that looks like a bull flag. It's constructive action. We're seeing this buying come in, we're selling some, then we're seeing buying come in, we're selling some, we're seeing buying come in. And that's happened the last 3 days. I think that's really constructive. It's working a lot of selling out while buying is still holding the market up. I think we might still get higher here. Previously I thought maybe we'd sell up, and I can show you the Dow's kind of doing the same thing. The Nasdaq's kind of doing the same thing. There's still a little bull flag type pattern there. The Russell, this whole area between the 200 and the 100, it's just very constructive action, very kind of tight, descending. Doesn't suggest to me that we're going to sell off. It just doesn't. So I'm hoping if we're going to keep doing that, fine. Maybe a little bit longer. We're going to need some kind of a catalyst or something to get us higher. Maybe to force the breakout, but I think that right now the action's pretty constructive. You can see some of that on some of the stocks. So here I have NVDA. The breakout was here, right here. We broke out here nice, and now we've come into this consolidation period, and it's a symmetrical triangle at this moment. I had it as a bull flag until a couple days ago when it really dipped, and then I redrew them, and now it's looking like a symmetrical triangle. So again, that could go either way. So if the market suddenly sells off, obviously that would fulfill the pattern as well. I think it's bullish because it rose up out of this bigger pattern into this and now into symmetrical triangle. So I think the action's actually bullish. We'll have to wait and see. Right now it is consolidating, which is good. Spotify looks like it's getting into some trouble. So this line now would follow these bottoms here, and now we've got more of a falling wedge happening. The clearest line is this top one. I've changed the bottom line several times. I had it diagonally this way, and had it over here, and it's just trying to keep up with the action. I'm trying to find the 2 points that make that bottom that is actually going to hold. Right now this looks much more accurate because it could bounce off this and come back down and continue to go along that lower line. So as of right now, I'd call that a falling wedge. I'm not going to put a buy point on it or anything, but because it could easily break down below. We'll see what happens tomorrow with that lower line. If it sells down below but closes above, we'll know that's the lower line. IRBT. So this is potentially still the lower line that we need. It's still kind of forming it, so we've got to follow what it's doing rather than expect it to follow our lines necessarily until it starts bouncing. This is kind of like Spotify. It's got to actually bounce off this lower line to show me that it's actually there for me to know that I've got the pattern right. But for now, the way I just drew it, that kind of works. Still a falling wedge or big bull flag kind of pattern. We'll see if it holds the lower line tomorrow. MELI, I adjusted this line today, and there it bounced off. So needed to be just a hair lower. I had it pretty tight, so it's bouncing off that line. So these lines look like they're accurate. Breakout would be about here, 498.55. If it breaks out to the upside, I think it'll hold the lower line. And the market, like every day, the market's had that lower dip. Gets really choppy. Things look really red. Like today, it was really, really red. It looked pretty bad for a while. Then the buying showed up and brought it back up. If that continues, then something like MELI, if it goes down to that lower line and breaks below, even on Spotify too, if it actually breaks down below and it looks like it has a big red bar, the close is what's going to matter. So if we could dip down low like that, let some of the selling get out of the way, and then buying comes up and brings it back above the lower lines. That could happen on MELI, that could happen on Spotify. That action is fine. It's actually better if it happens that way, because a lot of that selling needs to get out of the way before the stock is actually going to move up in the first place. So we need that to happen. We need that selling to get out of the way. Tesla had pretty good volume, and it broke this upper line. So this should have been a buy today. The volume was good at one point. I like 150% volume at least on a break of a line. It did have that at one point. It was about 153, so it was right there. And then it dipped, and then it came back, and it ultimately broke it by the end of the day on less average volume on the day. But it had it at one point. So I would have bought this today. I would have said that was a buy. Just so you know, I'm in NVDA right now, and I'm not buying anything else. In my trading, I'm trying to do one stock at a time, play out that whole trade, close it with a profit, hopefully, and then look at the next one. It's just where I'm at in my trading, and that's just how I'm doing it. But Tesla should have been a buy today. FANG, again, still in the... This is more like a symmetrical triangle. This upper line is actually angled down slightly. So, still in it with a buy point around 106.25. Etsy, let's see what it did. Okay, I'm going to take that lower line off, because this upper line is really the one it's following. You can see how many times it's touched it. And then it's got to figure out what it's going to do on the lower side there. That could be a descending triangle, but we'll wait and see. I'm not even going to give a buy point on that, but if you have the upper line there, and that's just a clear resistance point, if it suddenly rolls over that line, that's a buy. You could buy it there. I'm just going to leave the line in there. I'll see if it continues to touch it. If it gets it to a point where the bottom line becomes a bit more clear, then I could say it's a symmetrical triangle or something, but it just undercut the lower line now. I wouldn't say it's a pattern failure though, because it's still close to the upper line and it's really following the upper line. So we'll just give that more time. COUP, again, look at what this thing did. So it closed slightly below this lower line, but because it's so kind of messy, I could lower it down to there, and this channel is still valid. So now we're underneath this bar, we're underneath the open of this bar, and now we bounced off from there. Still in a channel. COUP's buy point is right around 97.08, so this upper line would be the buy point. So I would still keep an eye on that. I would guess that when the market conditions change, COUP is just going to fly like that. So that's it. Yeah, like, subscribe, comment, whatever you'd like to do, and I'll see you tomorrow.